Hey, what's up Aquamigos? How are you guys doing today? If you're new here, my name's Tobias, and today I'm going to be giving you the 5-year update on the Pothos plants that I planted in my 15-gallon aquarium 5 years ago. It's actually been about 5 years and 3 months since I added that Pothos to the aquarium. So if you saw the initial video that I posted just over 5 years ago where I added this Pothos to actually my 3 aquariums, not just my 15-gallon tank, I took the route of propagating the plants. The other way I've seen people doing it on YouTube is by taking the entire plant out of the pot and pretty much just rinsing all the dirt off the roots until you have just the bare root system, and just sticking the whole thing in your fish tank. I've personally never tried this method. By the way, I bought this Pothos plant from a local hardware store. It wasn't very expensive. At the time, it cost just around $8. When propagating this Pothos, I was sure to take my clippings from below the nodes. The nodes are like these joints that run along the vine, and they'll usually already have this like small brown stumpy root thing coming out of them, which I believe are aerial roots. I usually just call them the feet of the plant. But anyways, as you can see, my clippings were quite small, and of course they started out with no roots, and those nodes are where the roots will come out from. I made some hooks out of gardening wire to help hold the plants up against the side of the aquarium, and I also added some Pothos to my aquarium filter, and of course I also added some Pothos to my 10-gallon and 20-gallon tanks. After initially propagating the Pothos, roots started growing from all the plants within 1 to 2 weeks. I then posted an update video on the Pothos about 7 months later, and we saw some significant growth in the plants, a lot of roots in the water column, and I also learned a few things. For one, the 2 Pothos clippings that I had in the filter didn't seem to grow very much. It almost seemed as though being in the filter somehow stunted their growth. I don't know 100% if that's what happened, but nonetheless I decided to take them out of there and just put them in the tank. As you can also see, at this point I have fish in my 15-gallon tank again. In the first video I didn't have any fish in my 15-gallon because I had accidentally crashed my cycle, so I had transferred all of those fish into my 20-gallon, but at this point everything was fine again, and I had some Endler guppy hybrids in the 15-gallon. I also added these black suction cups to the plants to help hold them up against the glass, and that seemed to work pretty well in combination with my garden wire hooks. I tied the plants to the suction cups with some thread, and these suction cups came from some old aquarium heaters that I wasn't using anymore. In my 10-gallon tank, I had also added Pothos to the filter, and just like in my 15-gallon, that plant didn't grow much either, so I just added it to the tank itself. This also seemed to be the case with my 20-gallon tank, so I also ended up adding those plants to the tank itself as well. As for my 10-gallon, I don't remember why I didn't have any fish in there at this point. But anyways, at this point my main question was what kind of an impact was the Pothos having on the quality of my water? During the time of this 7-month update, I was kind of always struggling with kind of high nitrates in this 15-gallon tank, even although the tank wasn't heavily stocked at all. I think one thing that may have been contributing to that may have been some occasional decaying plant matter from my Java fern and Anubias, but on this day I did a 30% water change and then tested my water parameters, and I was still getting a nitrate level of about 40 parts per million, even although I had just done a 30% water change. So at this point in time, the Pothos was having very little impact on my water quality because that nitrate reading was kind of typical for me even before I had the Pothos, which was a bit of a surprise to me because I heard so many fish YouTubers talk about how well Pothos lowers nitrates. So anyways, moving a bit into the future, I did a 1.5-year update on my Pothos, and again we saw some pretty good growth in this update. However, I did feel like the growth was kind of on the slow side. As I'm sure you could tell, I was trying to train the Pothos to go over my wall, and it actually made it over in this 1.5-year update. But I actually think trying to train the Pothos to go up the wall may have also stunted its growth. For a short time, I let the Pothos just droop down onto the countertop, and I believe it actually grew faster during this time. After the Pothos made its way over the top of the wall and was able to droop down again, I noticed it started growing quicker again. Again, I'm not 100% sure this is the reason it was growing faster, but that's what it seemed like. As you can see, I also added some spider plants to the top of the tank, and I had transferred my Endler hybrids into my 20 gallon, and now I had my red dragon guppies in this tank. In contrast to the growth that we saw in my 15 gallon tank, we hardly saw any growth in my 20 gallon, and I'm pretty sure it's because the 20 gallon tank gets way less light than my 15 gallon. And back to the 15 gallon, when it comes to the impact on the water quality, I again didn't see a huge difference. During this 1.5 year update video, I was about a week overdue for a water change, and the nitrates seemed to be between 20 and 40 parts per million. At the time of making that video, I think I was a little disappointed because I was hoping the nitrates would be lower. However, looking back, considering that I now had more fish in the tank, I was a week overdue for a water change, it's clear to see that the Pothos was having a bit of an impact and was improving the water quality a little. Moving on to today, the 5-year update. 3.5 years after my 1.5 year update, the Pothos plant went absolutely crazy and pretty much took over this entire wall or divider or whatever you want to call it. This is 5 years of growth, and it's crazy to think that we went from these little clippings to these massive plants. By the way, please excuse the algae in my 15 gallon. The algae also grew like crazy. But as you can see, I even have some Pothos leaves actually growing underwater. Some of the Pothos leaves are massive as well, almost as big as my hand, and some of the vines are quite thick and strong. And as you can see, I still have my red dragon guppies in this tank, and the tank in general looks quite a bit different from the previous update. I think the main thing I learned about Pothos over these years is that it relies heavily on light. In front of this 15 gallon tank is a giant window, so this Pothos gets a lot of indirect sunlight and even a little direct sunlight in the mornings. However, if we look at the other side of the wall, we'll see that the vines have lost almost all of their leaves on this side because there isn't much sunlight on this side of the wall at all. And if we go over to the 20 gallon tank, which also doesn't get much sunlight, we'll see that over the 5 years, this Pothos just hardly grew at all. So I think light plays a huge role. Also, when it comes to the speed of the growth, I remember someone commented this on one of my videos before, and I think it's really true. Small plants grow slow and big plants grow fast. When these Pothos plants were small, they grew pretty slow, but now that they're big, they grow insanely fast. And as for the burning question on everyone's mind, what impact has the Pothos had on my 15 gallon tank? Check this out. The day before recording this video, I did about a 40% water change. The next day, while recording these clips, I tested my nitrates and we got a nitrate reading of 0 parts per million. I really was not expecting this. I always dealt with high nitrates in this tank, and I really didn't expect to have 0 parts per million nitrates. I can only imagine that now, because this Pothos has become this behemoth and is still growing quickly, it's just absorbing all the extra nutrients from the tank. Needless to say, I'm extremely happy with the results. So if you have Pothos growing in your aquarium and you're not noticing much of an improvement in your water quality, it may just be because your Pothos isn't big enough yet to absorb enough nutrients. As for the future of this plant, I'm really curious to see how big it will actually grow. Maybe one day it'll just take over the entire room. But anyways, it's been great seeing this Pothos grow over the years. And when it comes to updates on my koi pond, it's doing well. And some of you may notice that I'm not actually at home right now. I've actually been in Europe for the past month. I recorded all of that B-roll before I left for my trip, but I'll be home recording pond updates soon. My dad's been taking care of the pond and also my fish tanks, and everything's doing really well. So anyways guys, that's going to be just about it for this video. If you did like this video, I'd really appreciate it if you went down there and gave this video a like. That would help me out so much. If you'd like to see more of my videos in the future, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I'll go ahead and put my Instagram right here, and I'll talk to you guys in my next video. Peace.